Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, buongiorno, buonasera, dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, I jak działa? And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Three Brighton ladies case. I know three Brighton sisters is what most people go with. I'm not 100% convinced that the three bodies that were buried yesterday was the funeral of the three ladies. I'm not convinced they are sisters. They could be. They could well be the three sisters that we've been told that they are. I just don't know. And until there is definite identification, as in, I mean, DNA proven identification, I'm very hesitant to say who these three people are. Yes, I am coming at this with somewhat of a conspiratorial mind because it doesn't make sense. And when a crime story doesn't make sense, you have to have some kind of questioning, skeptical, and to a certain degree, conspiratorial mind to try to create a scene that makes sense. The current narrative does not, to me, make any sense whatsoever. But that said, let's go back to yesterday when it was the funeral service for the three ladies named Jane Adatoro, Christina or Tina Walters, and Rebecca or Becky Walters. Those three ladies had their funeral service yesterday. Now, if you go look at all the press reports of that funeral service, you're not going to hear anything like what I'm going to tell you now. So, if you're a bit of a hand wringer and you think what I'm going to say, because I'm going to be pointing out some distinctly negative features of this funeral yesterday, then trigger warning, maybe this isn't the video for you. But if you're one of those who want to hear the alternative version, the alternate story, if you like, what could well be going on here, then stay tuned. I made a list of the 10 weirdest things that I found happened in this funeral yesterday. I did watch the whole service. It was streamed. Um, at some points, there were about 50 people watching. I thought there'd be a lot more because, I mean, this case, the three ladies, the three Brighton ladies, is pretty big. There are a lot of people that are following it as far as they can because we're not giving any updates. PC Plod down in Sussex isn't actually telling us anything. The coroner seems to have no interest in updating anyone on anything. It's just wait till October when we, get back to the inquest. But for some of us, that isn't good enough. It's not good enough because we've been told this bullshit story so far. It's not making any sense. So we would kindly like our public servants to do their job and explain a few things. We'll get into that. But here we go, the 10 weird things about this funeral. Number one, and this I think is the weirdest thing, number one. The three photos of the three ladies that accompanied their caskets, you had the three beautiful white caskets all in a row there, accompanied by an individual photo of each of the ladies. Only thing is, each individual photo of the ladies was just cut out from this AI image. So even at the funeral, there is no photograph, no picture of the occupants of those three caskets. All we had was this AI image of a lady's face cut out and put next to one casket. This lady's image, AI image, the false creation that it is, cut out and put on the middle casket. And of course, this AI image of a lady was also cut out and put on the third casket. So, weird thing about the funeral, number one, in my experience, you're going to have the actual photograph, an actual picture, preferably recent, of the deceased. I've never come across a funeral where the picture of the deceased is not a picture of the deceased. It is some creation, whether it be an AI creation or in the past, an artist's impression. That's what it would have been in the past. Before AI, if you said, well, I don't know what this person looked like, but we'd like a picture of them to be by the casket for the funeral, the artist would draw what he thinks, according to your description, the person looked like. So, artist impression, AI image, that was the thing that was next to the casket. How can this be? How can we have a coroner and PC Plod in Sussex thinking this is normal? How can anyone on the planet think this is normal? We have someone that is 36 years old, someone who's 32 years old, someone who's 31-year old, and there is not one single picture of any of them in their adult life. Let's just take the eldest one, Jane Adatoro. I don't know which one is Jane out of these, but anyway, the eldest one, Jane Adatoro. How can there be no picture of Jane Adatoro? No picture of Jane celebrating her 35th birthday or 34th birthday or 33rd birthday or 32nd birthday or 31st birthday or 30th birthday. No picture of Jane Adatoro celebrating Christmas. A picture of her. No picture of Jane Adatoro with her sisters on holiday anywhere. No picture of Jane Adatoro going to church. These are people of faith. They go to church. We don't know which church, of course. Yeah. That would be too much information. Can't tell you which church they went to. Oh, but they did go to church. No picture of them with their church folk. No picture of them anywhere, anytime at all. Now we've heard the excuse, oh, well, they didn't do social media. They didn't have any social media. Well, that's fine. I would have thought Jane Adatoro, Christina Walters, and Becky Walters would have had a photo. If they've gone to have a passport photo taken, there's a photo of them. It's out there. If they don't, driver's licenses in the UK now have a photo attached. What I'm saying is the photos, if these are real people, and if they have existed in their adult life in the UK, there are photos of them out there. It is impossible in the UK, in this day and age, to be 36 years old and have no single adult photo of you ever taken, ever published, ever out there, hidden from the world. It's just not possible. Absolutely not possible. And yet we're asked to believe that by the coroner. Oh, it's all normal. No speculation, please. This is all normal. PC plot in Sussex. Oh, yeah, there's no third party involvement. This is all normal. Yeah, three adults. They all live together. No one actually knows them, but it's normal. No speculation, please. No third party involvement possible here. Oh, my God. People of the UK, people of the world, we are being played big time. And what I don't get is all the people out there saying, "Oh, yeah, we shouldn't be speculating. This is, I'm full of grief for what is a totally normal situation here. There's nothing that's untoward at all. It's all bloody untoward. You cannot have a casket, a dead 36-year-old, and an AI creation of what we think she might have looked like and say, this is normal. It's not. Sorry for the rant. Let me get back to that's point number one. Let me get on to point number two. Weird thing for me was the much aggrieved, the much tormented, the much, it is unbearable, I can't stand it, father of the three ladies. He had nothing to say. Nothing to say. I guess the grief was so overwhelming, the occasion was so distressing to him that he just could not drag his sorry ass up on the stage and say a few words of tribute to his own beloved three daughters. He just couldn't do it. Joseph Adatoro was nailed to that chair and said not one word of lament or recognition, no eulogy whatsoever, not one word passed from his mouth to the congregation in recognition of his three daughters. I find that unbelievable. Yes, I can imagine there's a certain amount of distress involved. I'm not sure exactly what the nature of the distress involved is, because I don't think Joseph Adatoro knows these three people. They may be his daughters, but I don't think they've lived with him. I don't think he knows them. They've disappeared somewhere at some stage. And he could not say a word. In fact, not only could the father not say a word, the sister, the fourth girl, the fourth sister, Gillian. As far as I could see, Gillian was there. I might be wrong about this. Gillian Jacobson must have flown over from Texas. If I'm right that Gillian was sitting next to Joseph, if that's Gillian, she couldn't get up there and say a word about her dear departed beloved sisters. Not one word. In fact, neither could the stepmother. I didn't see Genevieve there. Why wasn't Genevieve there? Genevieve told us, did she not, in the press, that she was one of those that went to identify the three. That implies she's in the UK, or unless she identified them digitally by Zoom. I don't know. But if Genevieve is in the country, why is she not at the funeral? Well, I'll answer my own question. I don't think Genevieve is allowed in the UK. I think that's the heart of the problem here. Genevieve, I think, got kicked out of the UK. She can't come back. She's in the US or Nigeria, but she ain't in the UK. I think she pretended she was at some stage, but I don't think she is. Happy to be corrected. I'm just my impression. There's no Genevieve. So, father said nothing, sister said nothing, stepmother said nothing. Auntie Jick. She's had a lot to say to the press. Had nothing to say at the funeral. In fact, no what I call senior adult had anything to say at the funeral. The only people to speak were three cousins, dominated by one Natalie Walters Daniel from the mum's side of the family. The Walters side of the family, Natalie Walters Daniel, did a fine job. Beautiful voice singing, very nice, Natalie. She went through her tributes. She did her Bible passage reading. Very much the Natalie Walters Daniel show. But it's a little bit strange to me that the father, the stepmother, the sister have nothing to say, not one single word. This cousin that emerges from God knows where, from the mother's side of the family, she basically led the service, did everything. There were two other contributors, Adiva, I think it is. She spoke a little bit, yeah, just read a text. And there was one other called Lejean, I think. Lejean could be. I'm not sure. Not sure of the name, but there were three cousins that said a few words. I find it very odd. I'll say it one more time. The aunt, the stepmother, the sister, the father, El Zippo. Nothing. Nada. I just wondered the father's case. Is there a reason beyond I can't say a word about my beloved daughters? Is there some reason beyond that that he doesn't want to speak? Don't think anyone's heard him speak. It's always a written words from Joseph Adatoro. Is there something about his voice that might, I don't know, cause some kind of curiosity? When Joseph speak, well, what's his accent? Lived in Luton, apparently, originally from Nigeria, lived up north in Manchester. I'm just saying, if Joseph actually speaks and he's got a broad American accent, and we're all going, oh, hello, what's going on here? Who's this guy? I don't know. Is there a reason Joseph didn't say a word and hasn't said a word? Ever heard an interview with Joseph speaking? I haven't. Listen for the father here. I'm just curious, how does someone who goes by the name originally, early doors in his life, as Aderemi Adetoro, got that Ade, very Nigerian, isn't it? Yoruba, I think. Aderemi Adetoro. Sounds Nigerian, is Nigerian. British Nigerian guy, Aderemi Adetoro. How does he go from having that name, Aderemi Adetoro, to Joseph Jacobson? Tell me that. I don't get it. Your first name's Aderemi. Your last name's Adetoro. That's great. Why the change from Aderemi to Joseph? Why the change from Adetoro to Jacobson? Why? He was Joseph Jacobson at the inquest. He's Joseph Jacobson on the electoral roll. That's his official name. I guess because the paperwork he's got of his name is Joseph Jacobson. So what happened to Aderemi Adetoro? Is that the same guy? Or did Aderemi Adetoro just disappear and Joseph Jacobson took over his identity? What's going on here? I mean, there might be a simple solution. I just want people to tell me. It's totally normal for someone called Aderemi Adetoro to become Joseph Jacobson. What kind of last name is Jacobson? If you're Nigerian, how many Jacobsons are there in Nigeria? How many Jacobsons are there Nigerian stock in the UK? Jacobson sounds a little bit Jewish to me. He could be Jewish. There's no problem with that. But how do you get from having Adetoro as your last name to Jacobson? I know Nigerian names can be flexible, but are they so flexible? The whole name is different after a decade? Just curious. What is going on here? Point number 4. So we've dealt with the dad's name. The dad has got nothing to say. AI images instead of photos. Weird thing number 4. Didn't see any tears. No tears at all. Normally in a funeral, people are upset. People are moved. People are shedding a tear or two. I didn't see one. And they had a few moments where they were panning across the people attending there. I didn't see any tears at all. Now, plenty of dark glasses. Not everyone, but a lot of people had the dark glasses on. Yeah, the dark glasses are there. Often that hides the tears. Can I venture to suggest the dark glasses in this case were to hide the fact there were no tears? I just didn't see anyone teary at all. Not alone, not just not weeping. I'm saying I didn't see anyone teary-eyed. Not one. At one point, one young lady was, had her hand up to her eye and looked like she was wiping something from her eye, but in fact, she was playing with her false eyelashes. That was that. false alarm there. I didn't see any tears. No tears, dark glasses. In fact, I would say the look of the people sat there was stony faced, and it looked like they were weary of this whole process. Whatever's going on here, they were just weary, tired. They were sitting through it like it was a meeting they had to attend. And the pastor guy was some kind of managing director who was giving some annual report. It just really looked like people were sitting there thinking, when does this finish? What is People were sitting there thinking, what is going on here? What is this really all about? My theory is there's a handful of people that know what's going on, what the scam is, what the problem is, and the rest are just kind of playing along. But I'm sat there like, what the hell is this all about? That was my take. But you have a look at it if you want. If it's still up there on YouTube, have a look at it and tell me if there's plenty of weeping, plenty of tears, and plenty of really sad, concerned faces. I didn't see it, but then I'm fairly skeptical. Number 5, the jobs were mentioned. Okay, so in the inquest, let me take you to the opening of the inquest. Schofield, is that her name? The coroner said that no jobs of these 3 ladies were known. Their occupations were unknown. Presumably, the police had found nothing, didn't know. Strange. Coroner couldn't tell us what their jobs were. Now, in the press, I remember reading that Jane Editora was an accountant. Well, Natalie, the cousin that conducted so much of the service, gave us all the info. Kind of. We learned that Jane Adotoro is indeed an accountant. She is a senior accountant who works with, well, we don't know, company not mentioned, but senior accountant. Got it. Christina Walters, no job, no job. She apparently graduated university 2 years ago. So, university graduate, unemployed for 2 years, doing what exactly? I don't know. Now, in the press, we were told that she had graduated from Brunel University, which is Middlesex. It's that Greenford, Uxbridge area. That makes sense. But all of a sudden, when Natalie was telling us this, Brunel University slipped out of the info that we were offered. It was just university. Makes sense because it's very hard to check, isn't it? University. If I tell you someone graduated from university in the UK 2 years ago, you wouldn't know where to search to find that person. If I said graduated from Brunel in 2024, now you've got a lead. Now you might find the name Christina Walters somewhere. But Natalie dropped the whole Brunel University and it was just Christina graduated from university 2 years ago. Which one, Natalie? Which one? Which university? And what has she been up to in the last 2 years? Sponging off Daddy? Sponging off Jane? Sponging off Becky? Sat at home? Looking at the wanted ads? What's Christina been up to for the last 2 years? And then we have Becky. Becky, we were told, was a HR, human resources administrator. Nice generic term. And human resources administrator for the company called, again, we didn't get told any company name. So, Jane, an accountant for Christina, unemployed, and Becky, HR administrator for no one knows. No one knows. Natalie doesn't know. Dad doesn't know. Auntie Jick doesn't know. Stepmom doesn't know. Sister doesn't know. No one knows. Or if they know, it's got to be a secret. Yeah, but at least we know the jobs. Thank you, Natalie. Actually, let me correct that because I think Natalie did say, yes, she did say, let me correct that. Natalie did say that Christina had become a junior accountant. So graduated from Brunel, no, graduated from university, and then she had become a junior accountant. Sorry, so let's correct the record. We were told at the funeral by Natalie that Jane Adetoro, senior accountant, Christina Adetoro, junior accountant, and Becky, human resources administrator. Very good. Anyone that's worked with these people hasn't said a word. No one has come forward, as far as I know, to say, yep, I work with these people or one of them and I know them very well. Not one. It is a mystery. Let's move on to point number 6. In the eulogy and the tributes that were given, Natalie, she said they were my best friends. Yeah. These 3 here, they were Natalie's best friends. Natalie doesn't have a picture of them. They were her best friends. And Natalie didn't give us any anecdotal information about these three at all. You know how it goes at a funeral. Usually, if they're talking about, let's say, Christina, they'll say, "Oh, and I remember the time Christina, she was at school." Oh, by the way, we don't know the schools they went to either. Yeah, she was a great basketball player, and she told me one day she wanted to be a pro. None of that happened in this funeral. Natalie, Adiva, Lejane, or whatever the third one, the three of them spoke. Not one of them came up with any anecdotal information. No little stories about something that Jane or Christina or Rebecca ever did. No quotes from them. Nothing about what they said at any stage. We didn't hear anything about anyone who had met these three girls. And yet, for Natalie, they were her best friends. I bet if you ask Natalie now, tell me about the last three occasions when you were in the company of these three girls, Natalie couldn't tell you that. Because I don't believe Natalie ever knew these people. But Natalie knew how to play along, I'm alleging, and say they were her best friends. Yeah, best imaginary friends, I would imagine. Number 7, no mention of church. Now, these are three ladies of faith, regular churchgoers. And the name of the church, the name of the pastor, the person that they know that their church is called. Again, the name escapes everyone in this family. No idea which church they go to. No idea any of the fellow churchgoers. No photo from any church service or celebration or anything. They go to church, but no one knows where, and no one knows them. No mention of their church. Number 8, every single word of this funeral was scripted. The pastor read everything all the way through. It was all scripted. In other words, not one person at this heart-rendering funeral spoke from the heart. Natalie, Adiva, and Lejane, all of them spoke from a script. In fact, as Natalie was reading from her script, occasionally she had to be corrected by the guy standing next to her. I mean, we all do this. As she's reading, she says through instead of though, a reading error. That's not the problem here. The problem here is every single word, from the pastor to the three cousins that gave their tributes, every single word was scripted. No one at any stage gave any, in my mind, warmth and genuine heartfelt emotion walking along that stage and looking the audience in the eye and telling them what they really felt about the loss of these three. It was all word for word scripted. I find that odd in a funeral. I'm not expecting everyone to speak from the heart. Some people just can't do it. But I would have expected someone to say something at some point that was genuine, unscripted, and just came from the bottom of their very deep, deep felt emotions. It never happened. In other words, what I'm saying is you can't get very emotional and very upset. And you can't get really into the whole disturbing atmosphere of a funeral if you don't know the people. If you're just a bystander, if you're just sitting there witnessing it, that's all you're doing. You can't get worked up about it. And I just didn't see anyone worked up about anything in this funeral. When it ended, it's almost like they bolted for the door to get the sandwiches and the beer. That's what it seemed to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. Every word was scripted. Weird thing number 9. Yeah, no mention of any school, no mention of any university, or no mention of any college or business. So, nowhere where they work or worked was mentioned. Nowhere where they went to school was mentioned. Nowhere where they studied was mentioned. Nowhere at all in their past. No institution, no place, nothing. No church was ever mentioned with specifics. I just find that bizarre. You would have thought it would have popped up accidentally, like Natalie would have said, when I went to such and such a school and I saw Tina doing this. It didn't pop up. And I'm suggesting the reason it didn't pop up is because these three haven't existed as real people in the UK for decades. That's why you can't give specifics. There are none. If there were specifics, they would just pour out unrestrained. But we don't have it in this case. By the way, if PC Plod down in Sussex thinks this is all normal, there's no third party participation, intervention, no third-party involvement. PC Plot in Sussex is not thinking along the right lines. Maybe PC Plot in Sussex is thinking along the right lines, just not saying anything. It's possible. But I have a nasty fear we get to October and this inquest is, oh yes, looks like it was accidental. Accidental death, let's all go home. Jay Slater 2.0. And the last one. The only person that was point number 10 that is just weird about this funeral, the only person that is mentioned as saying anything descriptive about these three girls, not generic, but particular, is what the doctor said when Jane was born. The one person that said something about one of these three was the doctor. The doctor, when Jane was born, described her as a vibrant baby. Vibrant baby. Well, look at that, Mummy Janice. You have a vibrant baby right there. That's it. No one else. I mean, I'm not talking about the family. The family have plenty of words to describe these three people, all very generic. But as far as outside of the family goes, only one person ever described one of these girls with one word, and that was Jane was described by the doctor when she was born as vibrant. That's it. That's it. No quotes from any teachers, friends, colleagues. Outside of the family, no quotes from anyone. I suggest because these three didn't exist. Not in the UK. Anyway, there will be a follow-up to this because I want to go back to the beginning of the three Brighton Ladies story and go back to an article that was written just after they were found. Because there's some stuff in there that I also think is eyebrow raising. Let's leave it there. I will say hasta luego, adios, hasta la vista. See you next time. Adios.